Carl Jung said, "Awaken and shine your light for others to follow. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This is an invitation to move differently in the world, to operate from a place of deep knowing and alignment. I'm Adrienne McDonald, and welcome to the Source Code Podcast. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. Happy new moon in Scorpio. Happy November. It is November. Can you believe it? I can't. We're in the home stretch of 2024, but let us not jump to 2025 just yet. We have a full 2 months ahead of us. I admit I am already dreaming about my sister-in-law's famous Christmas waffles, but you'll probably hear more about that in later episodes. Today, I want to talk to you about journeying into the underworld. And this is a bit about the frequency of what's going on right now as it relates to the human design sun transit gates, as well as some astrological aspects going on. Now, I'm not an astrologer, but the ones that I follow, I do pay attention when they start banging on about a particular transit. And I do follow the lunar cycles as part of my shamanic practice, and it's Samhain, so a lot going on this week. And the astrological aspects combined with the lens of the human design sun gates, they really give underworld vibes. We have this new moon in Scorpio today. And we also have an upcoming Mars-Pluto opposition that's peaking on Sunday, November 3rd. And these, again, are very underworld vibes. And when I started thinking about mythology, and I think this is true for most people, the first story that pops up when we think about underworld is Persephone and Hades. You know, Hades kidnaps Persephone, takes her to the underworld. He is the god of the underworld. She's held against her will. She eventually becomes the queen of the underworld, embodying both the sort of loss of innocence and the discovery of inner power. Like, her story is a cycle of descent and return and death and rebirth, which really lines up with the energy of Scorpio and Pluto. And another story, we have Inanna, which is a Sumerian goddess of love and fertility and war, and she decides to descend into the underworld ruled by her sister, the goddess of death. And her journey is voluntary, and it's driven by a deep calling to confront her sister and the mysteries of the underworld. It's very shadow work-like. And as she enters, there is this requirement that she pass through 7 gates. And at each gate, she is required to give up a piece of her royal attire, which symbolizes her power. So by the time she reaches her sister, she is stripped bare and she's vulnerable. And that really symbolizes a complete surrender of ego and worldly attachments, material attachments. And then the other myth that comes to mind is the one from Orpheus. He is a musician, and he is a fabulous musician, and he's devastated when his wife dies from a snake bite. And he's very driven by love and grief and all the things, so he descends into the underworld to plead with Hades and Persephone to release her soul back into the living world. And his music is so moving that it softens the hearts of the gods, who agree to let his wife return on one condition: that Orpheus must not look back until they have fully ascended out of the underworld. And as they ascend, his fear and doubt take over, and he turns back to ensure that his wife is following him. And thus, as a result, he loses her forever. And this journey really represents a descent into the shadow, a confrontation with fear and attachment, and a lesson on trust and surrender and acceptance. So when we look at these stories, descending into the underworld really requires a choice of some sort. It requires courage. There seems to be an element of this confronting something in the shadows that leads to an opportunity for transformation, an opportunity to reclaim power, a opportunity to reclaim part of yourself. And there's always this element of surrender and acceptance to something outside of your control, or to some level of divine energy. So when I look at the themes of the new moon in Scorpio and gate 44, which is the human design gate that's transiting the sun right now, I feel like there's 5 things that, as you're moving through today, and this energy is, the new moon in Scorpio is going to be felt for probably all weekend, I feel like. So if you're listening to this on Saturday, don't think you've missed the boat, because we can always descend into the underworld regardless of what time of year it is. But the first one is like deep emotional healing, deep emotional transformation and healing. Like the Scorpio energy is known for its depth and its intensity and its willingness to face hidden or shadow aspects of ourselves. And the new moon is a time for new beginnings, making this, very powerful setting for intentions around emotional healing, transformation, and letting go of old baggage. And then gate 44 is attuned to recognizing patterns, particularly those rooted in survival and relationships. Now, this gate's alertness brings a lot of awareness to relationship cycles. It allows us to identify patterns from the past that you need to look at, and they need to be transformed in some way, shape, or form. So the reflection might be, what relational or emotional patterns are you ready to release? Like, how can you embrace the healing and create space for healthier connections? So the second is trusting your intuition to reveal those hidden truths. Scorpio energy favors like digging beneath the surface. Like it's going to be digging in the dirt. Whether those truths lie in ourselves, our relationships, our environment, this energy really like amps up the intuitive abilities, especially around Samhain, inviting us to follow our inner guidance. And gate 44 is known for its instinctual awareness. It sharpens our ability to sense those underlying motives or cycles in relationships. This is a time to trust your whispers of your intuition, whether that be your gut feeling or that whisper in your ear, and notice the subtle cues that emerge. This is really giving the energy never lies vibe. And a reflection might be, what truths are surfacing now that can guide you in your next step? How are you deepening your trust in your own instincts and intuition so that you can uncover hidden insights? Number 3, breaking generational and ancestral cycles. Scorpio energy often connects us to ancestral and karmic layers of transformation, helping us address those deep-rooted issues that span generations. I mean, there is a lot of stuff that we carry from one generation to another. And this new moon is very powerful, setting intentions to release those patterns or beliefs that don't serve you anymore. I mean, gate 44's awareness extends well into the past, including those ancestral patterns, particularly the ones related to survival, relationships, and success. Now think about it, if not in your own family, but think in general in society, think about people that came out of the Depression era or World War II era. They look at life very differently. It is very much survival. Even when they have, I think about the way my great-grandmother looked at food and staples and money very, very differently because of the way she grew up and the time in society she grew up. It's very, very different. And there's a lot to be learned from the cycle. A lot of times you can look and say, I have this belief system because my great-grandmother, great-great-great-grandmother, great-great-great-great, keep on going back. And it served them very well in their time. But it was passed down and it may not serve you very well for the life that you want to lead. So that's another opportunity to sort of break free from that inherited pattern and setting a foundation for more present time, possibly more healthy cycle and belief systems. So a reflection might be, are there any family patterns that you're ready to release? And how can you use this time consciously to create new, empowering cycles? So number 4, empowered new beginnings and intuitive alignment. All new moons, except usually when they're in eclipses, great times for setting powerful intentions. It allows us to plant seeds for transformation, empowerment, emotional resilience. It's a chance to align our goals with our deepest desires. There's plenty of people out there that do new moon rituals around this. And Gate 44's energy encourages us to align with patterns that serve our highest good. And when I say serve our highest good, I would also include the community's highest good, because you know how I feel about everybody's purpose on the world is all the same, different expression. Your purpose is to be here for the evolution of your soul and to contribute back to the community, collective, in some positive fashion. So don't forget about the community when you're like making your intentions out there, people. So I would encourage you to reflect on what new intentions can you set to empower yourself to be more authentic, because that going into the underworld, doing that excavation is about being more authentically you. How can you align your actions with your intuitive sense that's going to serve you in the future? Okay. And number 5, embracing vulnerability and authentic connection. Scorpio's energy encourages you to embrace vulnerability as a path to connection and transformation. You can't, energy never lies. It's just subtle. And it's especially not going to let you lie to yourself deep down. And by letting down your walls and being open about your true feelings, you create space for more meaningful connection. That is with other people. It is also with yourself. And it should be with yourself first, because that will enable you to know who to share that with. Remember, not everybody has the right to hear your story, right? It is a privilege. So Gate 44's alertness in relationship really helps us see the patterns of protection and defensiveness that we may have and may have served us in the past, but could now be holding us back, right? This energy supports moving beyond surface level interactions and embracing a more profound connection based on trust and intuition and shared growth. Because when you trust yourself, you're going to have better relationships, because you're going to be able to ascertain if the person that you are trying to connect with is the right person. So how can you show up more authentically in your relationship? Where may you be holding back vulnerability? And how could you be embracing that and deepening your connection? So overall, for this new moon, some more practical tips for sort of harnessing the vibe and the energy is you can journal for self-reflection. You can write about your survival patterns that feel outdated. You could do an intuitive meditation and see what comes to you. You could do a shamanic journey and see what comes to you. You could do a ritual for release where you write down what you want to release and then either bury it or burn it in fire. You can also do a ritual for setting empowered intentions. You can also write those down and burn them in fire. Scorpio is a very fiery type. Samhain is a very fiery type vibe as well. So I've got fire energy thoughts on my brain. Let's talk about the Mars-Pluto opposition as it relates to Gate 44 energy. So this, from the astrologer standpoint, is a really challenging, very tense transit. And there is, about 4 points let's go through here, I think. So when we think about this particular transit, there's a heightened awareness around power dynamics. Mars and Pluto influence brings up power dynamics to the surface. It potentially triggering confrontations or illuminating areas where control and assertion and or suppression may be at play. The energy often compels us to confront hidden fears or attachments to power. And when you look at that through the lens of the 44 is all about instinctual awareness. And it sharpens our awareness around relational powers and past influence. So under this influence, we become exceptionally sensitive to recognizing cycles in our interaction, particularly where power and control are involved. So a reflection around that may be, notice where power struggles or patterns of control appear in your life, especially within your relationships. And is there an opportunity to bring these into a healthier balance? So the second around this opposition is breaking cycles for transformation. So Pluto's transformative energy urges us to break out of destructive cycles, because that's what Pluto's known for, is that we need the destruction of cycles. And on top of that, breaking out of destructive cycles, right? Mars gives us the courage and the action-oriented focus to actually do this. So this transit really pushes us to address any deep-seated issues or unhealthy attachments. It's like a little bit of a pressure cooker feel around that. And the instinct of Gate 44 helps us sense those patterns that have become repetitive or outdated. And this really makes it an ideal time to let go of anything that doesn't align with our true path forward. This gate's energy invites sort of a recognition of it's brutal honesty, really. It's something that you might have tried to avoid for a while. With all this energy dynamics, you're just not going to be able to avoid it anymore. And a reflection might be, what patterns are you recognizing that are ready for change? And how can you harness this energy to transform these areas? Because it's bubbling to the surface, and I don't think you're going to be able to ignore it anymore. So for the third point, intuitive empowerment for the future, this transit with Mars-Pluto can feel like a really intense rebirth moment. And it's asking us to step into a more empowered version of ourselves. It's asking us to have decisive action with the Mars. And, Mars really encouraged decisive action. It's very aggressive that way. While Pluto draws on transformation and asking us, okay, if you're going to take this action, it really needs to be towards authentic empowerment. In Gate 44, you can really tap into the energy of, that use the alertness to tap into like a real visionary focus, sensing of what will be beneficial for you in the future. And together with the Mars-Pluto intensity, this energy can really help us very much intuitively align with opportunities that are going to bring you more strength, more security. So the reflection might be, where can you take the action that supports your long-term empowerment? This is like, gotta dig deep here, people. What relationships or decisions feel instinctively aligned with a more empowered future? This is where you really need to get into your body, because your mind might try to override it. Because this is very, very much instinct feeling here, not trying to reason out or overthink things. And number 4, navigating emotional and instinctual depths. So Mars-Pluto influence can bring intense, sometimes challenging emotions to the surface. This is part of the journey into the underworld, people. Like, especially when you may feel conflicted about something. It's really an ideal time to face fears and bring emotional healing to the forefront rather than repressing and suppressing things. That's the reason why it feels a little bit more like a pressure cooker. And remember, the collective is thinking this as well. So Gate 44 is all about sensing threats to survival and security. And Gate 44's energy may amplify those feelings of unease during this transit. Like, this is not going to be super comfortable. But this is an opportunity to trust your instincts, trust your intuition, and lean into that inner guidance so that you can manage those strong emotions that come up. And you can manage them with clarity and with presence. So the reflection is, what intense emotions are surfacing, and how can you process them constructively? That is the key word here, constructively. How can you use your instincts and your intuition to guide you through that? Okay, so the combination of this really does create, although a very uncomfortable journey into the underworld, as most are, it creates this opening for deep inner transformation and heightened awareness. A deeper level of trust in your instincts, a deeper level of trust in your intuition. And embracing it really can mean releasing attachments, breaking unhealthy cycles, stepping into an empowered instinctual awareness of really what serves you going forward. So as you're moving through this, considering practices like shamanic journeying, meditation, journaling, breath work, to all the things that help you ground and integrate this potential energy are going to serve you well, allowing you to connect deeper with your instincts, with your intuition, and that is what needs to help guide you through any transformative actions so that you can be really intentional with it, right? Because this is a moment for embracing clarity and shedding the old and like really digging in there and coming out of the underworld with a much more clear, and you may feel a little weathered, but resolve. I'm not going to say calm, because I think that the energy of this would be really, really difficult to feel calm. I think you might feel, I could see maybe coming out of the underworld more focused, more with a little bit more intensity, with a little bit more like sparkly energy that's just right under the surface. That's sort of the vibe that I'm getting. So that's it for today. I hope you have found this super interesting and inspired you to perhaps dive in deeper with the underworld. It's not something that's super comfortable, but it's not something to be terrified of either, because that's really a great opportunity for some deep transformative work. As always, would love to connect with you on social media and hear your thoughts about this. Remember to find beauty every day and seek the magic in the mundane. Thank you for listening to the Source Code Podcast. If you found this episode insightful and feel moved to, please leave a review and share it out with those you believe will find it helpful. You can check out my website for more information at www.adrianmcdonald.com. And for more of my more regular musings, connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn. I hope you have a beautiful week.